Some truly disturbing allegations surfaced at the end of last week about Russell Brand's behaviour. The reaction, I think, is as interesting as the story. We have not seen the mass distancing that we usually see, right? In fact, the tribe of Brand's fellow travellers has stayed pretty much intact and in support of him, and it includes all the usual suspects, you know, the Andrew Tates and the Jordan Petersons and the Elon Musks and the GB News presenters. What does it say about the current landscape, do you think?
Well, I found the sight of women cheering him at his gig on the night that the documentary went out and the Sunday Times published was the most shocking thing about it all. Women standing up with banners saying, "We support you," ignoring the testimony of other women, I found very hard to swallow. But I think the bigger point, you're right, is that is this the point at which those who've really stoked the culture wars pause and think, oh, what have we done here? Because it is this coming together of distrust of the media, distrust in the testimony of women, linking it to the Andrew Tate and the weird manosphere with the blue pill, red pill thing. Like, what's the truth? You're not understanding the truth about humanity and how people behave. And it's all come together in kind of one story. I think this is the first time I've seen one story that really brings all of those elements of the chaos that is online life at the moment in one place, and it has real world implications. These are young women's lives, those 4 women who were brave enough to come out and share their testimony. This real people's trauma that is being raked over. So it's not just online batshittery either. As you said, this is mainstream journalists often who are stoking this. That's definitely 2. I won't name names because it's not just 2, but I saw 2 very prominent female journalists basically tweeting their support for Brand and then admitting they hadn't actually read the full extent of the allegations and the 4-year investigation by the Sunday Times.
Well, one said she hadn't even read the article.
Yeah, absolutely. They hadn't read it. But they were just nevertheless coming out.
They were in his corner, and in his corner they would remain.
So where does this leave us? You know, you can do 4 years of extensive work into a deeply troubling, difficult story with all the legal requirements behind that, and then other journalists who work in the mainstream media will commentate on it without even reading it and undermine it. So,
and the Daily Mail will claim it as an exclusive, which was another truly bizarre thing, that they took his response to the story he knew was coming out
and this is all
splashed it across 2 pages before the Times,
I mean, that stuff happens all the time.
This is our exclusive.
Brand allowed that to happen, of course, by trying to get ahead of the story, which is a classic PR tactic. But I guess my question about it all, if to step back from those women's testimony to a bigger picture, is where does it leave us? That we are now in this situation where you almost can't address any personal issue or individual's claims without it becoming part of this culture war, this toxic debate between them and us.
Well, one of the things that strikes me is the similarities with Trump.
Yeah.
And, you know, also a sexual predator. Yeah. Also very well-sourced accusations made against him, which have not touched him at all. And that is because he has built up this personality cult in the same way that Russell Brand has. Because Russell Brand occupies a space in public life which we can't really define very well now. He's not a politician. He was a comedian, a general entertainer, a presenter. Now he's not really that anymore. Now he has enormous social media influence, and he has a following, and he has this kind of libertarian, woo, vaccine skeptic, basically QAnon adjacent persona.
Yeah, the crankosphere.
Yeah, but what do you call someone like that? You haven't even got a name for what he is now.
I've got a name for what he is, but Andrew doesn't like it when we say that word. Do you think this was by coincidence? Because I have heard some people suggest that people join the crankosphere and become advocates for it in anticipation of stories like that coming out because they know it future-proofs their income.
I saw this mooted as well. And it's interesting that there is a correlation in the timing between him developing this sudden urgency and building his own personal community online and the other things going on, where he knows Me Too is happening, so there's that question mark.
And those two investigations have been going on for years.
Absolutely.
So he would have known something about them.
But I don't know if it's that straightforward, because the kind of environment that we're in has fostered that kind of reaction in people like him anyway. These narcissistic tendencies that he has, this obsession with power, influence, having all of that available to him online, and probably witnessing how other influencers have gathered those communities, and that kind of power online has just attracted him to it. And also he's part of that. I've heard him talk before about his power in drug recovery. That's all about community too. So it very much taps into the sort of behaviour he was already invested in. But it is convenient.
I mean, I have to say, sometimes these stories come as a complete surprise, and this one did not, at least to me. Not that means anything, but
you have to,
just saying.
You have to, unfortunately, acknowledge, but this is a man with a great deal of charisma. Now, he doesn't do it for me, but he certainly does it for a lot of people. They make him feel good. He makes them feel good about themselves, and he has managed to do that. And you can see that as a pattern pretty much throughout his career that he's decided to exploit, because, as you say, influencer is probably the best word for him now.
He's an influencer in the real sense of the word, I think, rather than the sort of social media.
Buying power,
And we see this pattern with with men who are charismatic. We saw it with Johnson, we see it with Trump, and we see that
Corbyn, actually. Well, also not that he courted it, but all I'm saying is his supporters have that same sort of fervour that anything negative said about him must be untrue and part of some conspiracy to get him, rather than have any merit.
But sometimes, as in the case of Brand and Trump, it goes with sexual predation as well. And it's something that, frankly, we've seen throughout history. And he is just the latest example.